If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from okay to very high. Know your sleep score with Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
Your LinkedIn feed can give you daily insights from your professional community. It cannot keep you updated on the daily office gossip.
Oh my gosh, no way.
It can help you stay informed on the latest news and trends in your industry. It cannot stop your boss from trying to start a new office trend. Who's ready for Flip-Flop Fridays? And while we can't stop all of the office jargon,
Does this vibe with our collaborative lattice work metric?
LinkedIn can start taking your career to new heights. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
Get business done with the new American Express Graphite Business Cash Unlimited card. With unlimited 2% cash back on all eligible purchases, unlimited 5% cash back on flights and prepaid hotels booked through American Express Travel Online, and a flexible spending capacity that can grow with your business, you'll have the confidence to keep building. Apply today and earn a welcome offer of $1,500 cash back after you spend $50,000 in qualifying purchases on your new card within the first 6 months of card membership. Terms apply. Learn more at go.amex/graphite.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn and welcome to How We're the Podcast. And here we are, ladies and gents, the final day of a brilliant season, which means it's our last match preview of the 2025-26 season. Exactly a year to the day since we beat Sheffield United at Wembley. And not many of us would have dreamt that after the final whistle that day, that we would be taking on Chelsea while just being 1 point and 2 places worse off than them, with the prize of European qualification still up for grabs on the final day of this season. But while there's going to be a lot of that sort of talk in the build-up, we also have a game to play. So to help me run through everything ahead of kickoff, I'm very glad to be in the company of 2 trusty steeds who I have had the pleasure of talking to on a regular basis throughout this season. And first up, we have Jonny Hawley. Hello, Jonny.
Hello, Chris. Yeah, it's a bittersweet feeling, this, isn't it? It's what an exciting match preview, but like you were just saying before we started, it's last one of the season.
Yeah, well, we don't want it to end, do we? I mean, it was interesting, the press conference, the manager was asked and he was talked about some of the players, and he said with the way the players are on the pitch, he said they want to keep going. They want the season to carry on. They don't want it to end.
Oh, they're not alone. I don't want the season to end. Keep going. I want to watch us every weekend. Forget the World Cup. No one's interested in that nonsense. Keep Sunderland playing all summer, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And also joining us is, as we said the other day, the Barry White of How We're the Podcast. We've got Andrew Smithson with us. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Chris. I've got nothing to say to you on that front. Move on to the football before I say something daft.
Yeah, it is bittersweet though, mate, isn't it? Because the best season we've had for a long time. Last season, you said with the ups and downs and the uncertainty of not going up, it had that element of, that pressure at the end, and people, thinking back to shouting at Lebris out when we're losing those games towards the playoffs and asking questions of him and all that sort of stuff. And here we are a year later with the possibility of qualifying for Europe, and it's just, we never have this lack of pressure seemingly on the end of the season, do we?
There's always got to be, if we've not already been relegated with like a record low points haul, there's always something to play for. So yeah, I don't know why any of us are nervous or anything like that, because this should just all be second nature to us. But yeah, it is a bit of a shame that it's coming to a close. Particularly at the moment, because I feel as if right now we're in such good form. We're kind of back to our best, Chris. So I want more of it. I don't want it to end.
Yeah, I thought that with the Man United, how good we were against Man United, then that result at Everton, it just feels like we're picking up again after a few dodgy results. But But yeah, Jonny, look, exactly a year. And, we've talked about these things, just these stories keep happening with Sunderland, whether it's, the Dan Ballards or the Tommy Watson. I mean, God, people were laughing at the prospect of Tommy Watson coming up with that winning goal months earlier when he said he was going to leave, and then it happened, the story happened. And then what happened in the summer and beating the Mags twice, the stories just keep on going. Now, to top it all off, exactly a year after that Sheffield United game would be a bit ridiculous, wouldn't it?
Even listening to you say it there, I'm like, nah, he must be joking. This can't be really happening. It's too perfect, isn't it? Exactly a year to the day since the day that I think, for quite a lot of us, would say probably the best day of our lives supporting Sunderland. For me, best day of my life, full stop, because I'm a sad act and I've got no life outside of football. So to have literally a year on the opportunity to somehow top that and go and achieve something that, as Martin was saying on the Q&A, no Sunderland team in the history of football has ever qualified for Europe through league position. And when you put it like that, you realise, like, bloody hell, this would be absolutely humongous in the history of the club and in the potential future of the club. It's great, isn't it? Because saying all that about how big of a game it is and, all that kind of stuff and the momentous history of it, we could have said all that last May as well, but there was a hell of a lot of jeopardy there, wasn't there? We've talked a lot of times about the sliding doors moment of us going up and Sheffield United staying down and then, look where the two are now. It's not really any of that for this one. It's just, if we do it, it's absolutely amazing. And if we don't, well, we've still had a cracking season, so happy days, which is, as you've kind of both alluded to, quite the rare feeling for Sunderland fans. So I've got no idea how to process it, but I'm incredibly excited, and that poetry would be brilliant.
Just before we move on to Chelsea, Andrew, just one more on this front, and I'm sure we'll end with this as well. But again, going back to that final whistle at Sheffield United exactly a year ago, and I remember everyone, we were celebrating that moment. We were celebrating that Sunderland were back. We almost, every time somebody brought up, I remember, right, well, Premier League next season, it was like, shut up about that. Never mind that. We'll deal with that another day. We just want to enjoy the moment. Sunderland are back. We had 4 years in League One. Now we're back in the Premier League. We'll think about next season for another time. Then the fixtures came out a few weeks later, and it had Chelsea at home last day of the season. Now, at that point, I think people would be lying if they didn't think, oh, God, that's a tough one if we need some points on the last day of the season. And we do need the points, but for completely the opposite reason that we thought, Andrew.
Yeah. I'm tempted this summer to go back through the old episodes of Aware the podcast and go through all the articles on Roper Report and just see who was the first person to suggest we could be pushing for Europe. And then just see what the reaction to that was. Somebody, I don't know, after we beat West Ham 3-0, did somebody say, I tell you what, that looks like a team who could be gunning for Europe or something?
I'll stick $1,000 on Gav.
Do you reckon? Yes, he is. He is. What did he used to get called? Half
full Henderson.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, I think it might have even been the three of us on a pod reasonably early in the season where we said, well, what's the highest realistic thing that you think we could achieve this season? And I believe I was the one who said, well, we could sneak 8th and get Europe. So, Andrew, if you are going back and checking the receipts, if I'm right, I want full credit, right? And I want it plastered all over the socials, and I want my own mural alongside Ballard and Watson. Is that too much to ask?
I'll get straight onto that after this. I'll get that sorted. Yeah, I think we all thought this last game of the season might have had something riding on it, but wow, what a brilliant 12 months.
Yeah, it has been some journey. But look, there is a game to play. We might keep forgetting this because we'll keep talking about how brilliant this season is regardless of the result. But there is a game to play and there's a little bit riding on it. But Chelsea are coming to town. Maybe not in the position that they expected at the start of the season. They're currently 8th, just 1 point and 2 places above us, like I said, which, again, and going back, Jonny, they've had such a strange season. It was interesting talking to Max from the Chelsea Unfiltered podcast on the opposition preview this week, because looking back to the end of November, they were actually 2nd in the league. 6 points behind Arsenal, kind of chasing them under Maresca. And they'd just won the Club World Championship, spent 250 million in the summer, and all look good. But it's just bizarre, even a club like Chelsea, how quickly the wheels can come off.
Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It was that Christmas period, wasn't it, where everything kind of imploded for them, even though they were still doing all right in the league. But that was when I think, the stories started to creep out about Maresca. Maybe he was talking to Man City. Maybe he was falling out with the Chelsea hierarchy. I think he himself came out after they played Everton and said something about that was my worst 24 hours as a manager. And I think they'd won the game or something as well, which was a bit mental. So yeah, it's been a unique case study in how not to operate an elite Premier League football club, I might suggest. Having said all that, mind, they've sort of took the wrong way round to get to the right outcome because they've appointed probably one of the best managers available in Europe for the next season in Xabi Alonso. So yeah, what a basket case of a football club, which I'm totally aware of the irony saying that as a Sunderland fan, by the way.
Yeah. Just calm down, Johnny, because
Yeah.
somebody at Sunderland's going to say, hey, hold my beer. You think that's bad? Watch what we can do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bitter
yeah.
experience has taught us, hasn't it?
Yeah, basket case of a season, basket case of a club, 8th in the Premier League, got to a cup final. I mean, it's not bad, really, is it? To be fair,
I think we'd all take it, wouldn't we?
absolutely.
But I think, it is kind of indicative of like where Chelsea are as a club, that they can have a season like this where you've got such extreme highs and lows all within, days of each other at times. And that's on the one hand, obviously that's something that we can take some comfort in, is the fact that they've been all over the place, and even their recent form has been very uppy downy. They've had some strange results, but then they beat Spurs in the week, and so you never know what Chelsea's going to turn up, which can be a good thing. But obviously, to put some slight realism into what is, I'm imagining, going to be an optimism fest, they have got the players who, if they turn up and if they're at it and if they fancy it, they've got some players in that team who can just decide a game if they want to. I hope they don't, because I'd really like us to win. But it's impossible to call really what Chelsea's going to turn up. So I think feeding it into Sunderland, it means that really I think Labris has got to just focus on what we can do and try and win the game on our terms. Because if we try and play on their terms, we're not going to know whether we're coming or going.
Yeah. Apologies, Johnny, but you did distract me there by being the first this season, I think, to click their fingers while making a point and using uppy and downy.
I'm a man of many talents, me, Chris.
So I lost track of what you were saying. But anyway, Andrew, Johnny did mention the appointment of Xabi Alonso, which I think has come at a good time for Chelsea, because then he can hit the ground running into the summer. Potentially, do you think it's come for a bad time for us, because they had a horrible run? I mean, they had lost, I think it was 5 off the bounce or something like that, and hadn't conceded. I'm just trying to frantically double check now, but they lost quite a few in a row, and then they drew at Liverpool. So they lost 6 in a row, then drew at Liverpool, and of course then they beat Spurs. But Spurs were pretty awful in that game, to be fair. But there is this Alonso effect, which might kind of have Chelsea players thinking, oh, actually, we've got someone serious in charge next season. I might, I best show what I'm made of on the last day of the season.
Potentially. And Johnny's dead right in that Chelsea have the ability to just roll into the stadium and turn it on from nowhere. So we do need to be guarded against that. But I can think of a few ex-Chelsea managers who would just balk at the idea of any of that squad trying to set a good example or make a name for themselves, because so many of them just seem to do what they want and look after themselves, and see playing for Chelsea is almost an afterthought. So hopefully we catch them with one eye on the World Cup, or with one eye on what they're going to do over the summer holidays, rather than be thinking too far ahead to Alonso. Chelsea are just such a mad club anyway. There's probably players in that squad who the management don't even know are on the books. There'll be other players plotting plotting moves away or have to be sold for financial fair play reasons, I think we're perhaps crediting them with too much there, suggesting that they're going to give a nick about what's happening down the line, because nothing they've done of late gives me any suggestion they're going to take this game seriously, particularly. There is always that danger that they then just hit a screamer from 30 yards and you're 1-0 down and the bubbles burst. But I think if we're switched on and we respond to the atmosphere well, I just think the Chelsea players will just fold like a deck of cards and just say, hey man, we'll worry about this new gaffer when we turn up for pre-season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jonny, just on that point, because it was interesting talking to Max, like I said, on the opposition preview from Chelsea Unfiltered podcast, because we're talking about what's at stake in this game. Now, we're talking about qualifying for Europe, and we already touched on how exciting and how big it could be for Sunderland. You know, first time we've done it through the league, first time qualifying for Europe since 1973. It would be massive for us. You know, when we were talking about Chelsea qualifying for Europe, he was obviously less enthusiastic because Chelsea are, of course, used to being in the Champions League. And he was suggesting that some of these players, if there's a prospect of playing in the Conference League, might actually sack it off a little bit and go, well, does the club really want to play in that? I mean, do you think there's an element of Chelsea players now thinking, well, there's not really as much at stake as there is for Sunderland because Chelsea really want to play in the Champions League, and it might be deemed a little, more of a distraction next season for Chelsea if they qualify for the other two?
Yeah, I mean, I think that almost goes without saying, doesn't it? You know, if you're Enzo Fernandez, £100 million player, or if you're Cole Palmer, who's, scored in cup finals and international finals, or, run through the squad, there's plenty of examples. You don't care about the Conference League. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. Enzo Fernandez could not give a monkey's chuff about the Conference League. You could parachute him directly into the final and give him a penalty in the 95th minute to win it, and I think he'd still say, I'm not bothered. You keep it. Whereas, obviously, for us, it would be everything. It would be beyond our wildest dreams. I remember, being a younger man and thinking, I'll probably never get to see Sunderland play in Europe. And then being a much less younger man and thinking, I'll never see Sunderland back in the Premier League. So to see us potentially do both in the same season would be just astronomical for us as a football club. Like you say, that incentive just isn't there for Chelsea, certainly for the players and the supporters. And in the boardroom, there's actually a bit of a perverse incentive where it's better for them financially to be out of Europe, because, not to turn this into a financial podcast, but under the new SCR rules, it's 85% of your footballing revenues, or whatever it's called, that you get to spend. It's 85% is the number. But if you're in Europe, that drops to 70% automatically, because you have to be in line with, different regulations and things, and there's complicated factors with UEFA and whatever. But the long and short of it is, for a club like Chelsea, unless it's the Champions League, Europe literally is not worth it, because it restricts them even further in the transfer market and stuff, which, as we know, Chelsea already have quite a colourful and checkered history with financial rules in the transfer market. So I'm not suggesting for a minute that they're going to go out there and try and lose the game or anything, like that. But there certainly is no big carrot dangling in front of Chelsea, either as an institution or as a fan base or as a squad of footballers. Certainly nothing like there is to the extent of what's in front of Sunderland. It's total chalk and cheese, isn't it, between the two clubs and the attitudes to this game and the potential consequences. And I think, hopefully that should stand us in really good stead, shouldn't it?
Well, let's hope so. And we do need to get into the Sunderland discussion. But I think before we do, we'll take a quick break. So we'll be back very soon.
Where is Daredevil?
I'm right here. Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated.
We're gonna take this city back.
Over-medicated.
In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil, Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
You may think you know McDonald's drinks, but you don't know them like this. From fruity refreshers like the Strawberry Watermelon Refresher and the Mango Pineapple Refresher with popping boba, to crafted sodas like the Sprite Berry Blast with berry-flavored Sprite topped with cold foam. Who knew ice-cold drinks could be so fire? 6 all-new drinks are here. Try them all, now at McDonald's. Refreshers contain caffeine.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
And welcome back to How We're the Podcast. And we're just about to get into the discussion about Sunderland ahead of the big game against Chelsea at the Stadium of Light. And there was a few bits and pieces that came up out of the press conference, Andrew. The first one that kind of pricked my ears up a little bit was a question that came in from the press about Enzo Lefebvre. And for starters, Regis Lebris said he wouldn't comment on Lefebvre's celebration, which I thought was quite interesting. But it was interesting what he kept saying about him in this, I don't want to say new position, because I think when he first joined, we were saying this was probably his natural position. But he said he's very pleased with him there, and he said it fits the profile that we want in what he called the central corridor. He said it was important for him to pick up the ball in there, and he talked as well about his connection with Robbie becoming really impressive. But it is interesting, Lebris, talking about this, because I remember even in his first discussions when Lefebvre first signed, this was the discussion then.
We've always felt that this was going to be his strongest, the place where you'll get the most from him, and he'll be the strongest. I think it's only ever been needs must with regards to him playing out wide. He did it in the Championship as well, and I think it was circumstances more than anything else. Looking back, we had Job, we had Dan Neil, who were pretty solid in the centre of the pitch. So get Lefebvre onto the pitch at least, and even if he is out wide, he can do some damage. But yeah, in the Premier League, somebody with his ability to pick out the ball is just fantastic. So nobody's shocked by this. It's just pleasing that as we've got towards the end of the season, players have returned from injury and what have you, and allowed us to move Lefebvre into somewhere where he's more comfortable. And that's perhaps another reason why in the summer, when we go into the transfer market, we'll be looking at wide players, not just because the wide players we've got at the moment haven't nailed down the spot, but also because then it reduces the need for Lefebvre to ever have to go on the wing again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the other thing he was asked about, Jonny, and he was pushed on a little bit, because it was quite interesting, because he was asked, he says, what's the big moment in the season? He was like, is there a big moment in the season? And he just went, yeah, consistency, which I don't think was the answer that whoever asked it really wanted. But he just said, yeah, consistency's been our big thing of the season. But it was interesting because they then got him on to the Chelsea away game, where he said that was a fantastic moment because it gave us a great foundation to play away. And it might have been something we heard about at the time, but I can't remember hearing it until Lebris talked about it at the press conference. He talked about Xhaka giving a speech before that Chelsea game, telling the rest of the team that they would go and win that game. I mean, he got away with it, to be fair, because we left it really late. I mean, I don't know how it would have come off if we hadn't won the game. But look, for Lebris to say that and reference that as such a big moment, not only in, again, how we approached away games, but that Xhaka did that and told the team and gave them belief. It did feel like, because he mentioned it afterwards, that it probably was a massive moment winning at Chelsea for us this season.
absolutely couldn't agree more. I mean, for me personally, that was the result where I just kind of totally relaxed and went, "Oh, we're staying up. We are going to be absolutely fine." And obviously, that's just looking from the outside in as a fan, with no access to the dressing room or whatever. And so, who knows whether Xhaka's speech was even any good? He might have just happened to get the result right. But I think that speaks to something that Lebris is kind of, he's not really like harped on about it, but he's mentioned it quite regularly over his time as Sunderland manager about how he wants his players to be able to take more responsibility at times, on the pitch especially. And he talks about, he needs them to be able to solve problems and things like that, which, it's not unique to Regis Lebris. That's something that a lot of managers want. But I do think that he is, or he seems to me to be the kind of head coach where he would like for his players to be empowered to take that responsibility on and, lead the dressing room themselves, set the standards themselves. Obviously, those are the kind of things that are what are happening in your day-to-day. And then when you've got good enough footballers, you can start having players who are able to, make tactical decisions on the fly on the pitch and are able to identify, okay, the manager's given us this plan, and if we follow this plan, we'll probably be all right. But there are moments in games where you have to do something a bit different. You've got to, I don't know, just play a line break and pass when you're not supposed to, or jump and press somebody because you can see they're about to lose the ball, or, whatever it is, all those micro decisions that make up a game of football. I think from Lebris's point of view, he'll have been more impressed than anything else by seeing the players stepping up. And obviously somebody like Granit Xhaka is the perfect voice to bring into that dressing room. And this is not new ground. We all said this at the time, didn't we? But that's, I think, probably a perfect exemplar of why Xhaka is so important because, okay, Burnley at home, it's all well and good having players step up and say, right, lads, we've got to win this game. Let's go for it. It's a hell of a lot different when, and don't forget as well, Chelsea, we've just said they're a basket case. At the time, Maresca was still in charge. They were the reigning Club World Cup champions, yada, yada. Everyone had them nailed on for Champions League at the end of the season. So in that environment, to stand up and have the, to have the balls to go in front of the squad and put your neck on the line a bit, because you look a bit silly, like you said, Chris, if it doesn't come off. All of that, I think, far more than the immediate impact of whatever happened in that game, I think that would have shown Lebris that, okay, this squad gets it. They're switched on. I've got the right mix, the personalities, the players, the talent, it's all there and it'll come together. So, like I say, obviously just from the initial impact of winning that game, that gave me all the confidence in the world. But yeah, for Lebris, I think it does show a lot of what his sort of thought process is around his squad and around how he approaches football, for him to have brought that up so specifically. Because you're right as well, it was a bit of a surprise because he never tends to divulge that sort of information, does he? But unsurprisingly, seeing as how we're on the verge of potentially qualifying for Europe, he was a little bit more chipper than usual at this press conference, wasn't he?
Yeah, I just think he has fun running rings around the press, to be quite honest, and not giving them any answers or not giving them the answers they want. But actually, again, Andrew, something was put to him which I think would probably put some of the managers under pressure, because he was asked if it would be a shame if we didn't qualify for Europe, which is probably a tough one for a manager to answer in that situation. And he just went, I don't think so. He says, we've got 51 points and we've got an opportunity to reach 54, which was stating the facts. But he went on to say that we learned and improved, and he said we've struggled at times this season. He's been proud of the team. But he's absolutely right, isn't he? I mean, almost the European debate, whatever happens at the end of this game, you look at the fact that we've got 51 points at the very least. I mean, as he said, that's just impressive on its own. So we can't go down the route of thinking it's a shame or anything like that if we don't win. Of course, it's an opportunity, but again, he talked about where we are in the journey, and it would just be the cherry on a massive cake, like we said in the Q&A.
Well, it would be a lovely bonus, but yeah, his answers just tell me that everybody at the club are confident about the structures that are in place and confident about the attitude and the way things are going. I mean, I can understand from the press's point of view they're going to try and throw him a few dodgy ones to try and just get something out of him. You know, they need like a sound bite or a quote or whatever. But he's not going to go, oh yeah, if we don't get into Europe, that just basically means it's a failure. He's always going to play it with a straight bat. I think he's right though. Notes ever the matter with Lebris. He just always keeps it calm. He always keeps his feet on the ground, and I think that's how it has to be. It's great that as fans we can get excited and look forward to it, and our job is to bring the noise and the passion and the intensity. But his job is always been to just keep the team focused on what they can impact, you know, control the controllables and all of that, and see where that takes us. He's been superb for us. He's been exactly the figurehead we've needed over these last couple of years. I think I've said a few times, he has now changed my thinking on what type of personality you need to be a Sunderland manager. I just think his temperament is perfect. He never gets riled in press conferences, and you have to assume that's the case on the training ground and in the changing rooms after games and at half time if things aren't going the right way. I don't think he's going to be given the hairdryer treatment to anybody. So yeah, he's that press conference, like every other press conference and pretty much everything else he's done, he's performed brilliantly. And I love him to bits. He's brilliant. And he cracks us up, man. He cracks us up. Just, you know, like that thing there where you said, oh, what's been the highlight of your season? And he just says consistency. And the people doing the recording it are probably thinking, how man, just give us something. Like, do you reckon his wife has ever said to him, oh, what was it that made you fall in love with me? What was it?
It's the way you were exactly the same every day.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, she's hoping that it's going to be it's a special date at that restaurant I love, or it's the way you make me feel. No, you're always on time. You're always delivering the deliverables. He's mint. He's brilliant. We're lucky to have him.
Yeah. He'll be talking about the connections he has with his wife, I think. That.
Hell of a dynamic.
Yeah, but that. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm just going into the atmosphere now, Jonny, because that was a topic that was raised. And look, Roper Report alongside the Love Supremes put the call out to get the atmosphere going before the game, lining the bus route. Started at 2:10, and all the information's gone out online and everything like that for times and things for people to ramp up the atmosphere outside the ground before the game. And it was referenced by Regis Lebris, and he actually said, he was talking, I think the question was something like asking whether this game is bigger than the playoff. And he just kind of, again, took it with a straight bat and said it's just different because it's the next step. But he also said the biggest thing is to keep connected with our identity. And he specifically said with the help of our 12th man. And I think the players, we talked a lot about, especially in the first half of the season when that home run was just running and running far longer than I think any of us would thought, that they were feeding off the home fans. Every tackle, every pass, you know, that the fans were reacting to, and the fans were up for every game. And I think with that behind them, Lebris knows what an impact that can have on these games, doesn't he?
100%. It's undeniable. You know, like you said, you just had to watch us in that first, what was it, 11 or 12 home games of the season that we went unbeaten. Ridiculous stat as well, that sort of got lost in all the chaos of the second half of the season, but that alone was an incredible achievement for us, really. But yeah, you just had to see or hear the atmospheres at games, you know, like obviously the opening day against West Ham, Arsenal at home, Manchester City at home, obviously Newcastle at home, even Villa at home, you know, a game where we went down to 10 men and rescued a point. You know, these are games where you can never measure really how much of an impact the fans have had on the performance, because you can't just find a nice clean number somewhere that just tells you exactly what it was. But if anyone was in if anyone was in the stadium on any of those days and doesn't believe that the fans made a difference, I just don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you're watching, because it wasn't football and it wasn't Sunderland. If that's what you've come away thinking, so yeah, it's going to be massively important. In my head, I'm thinking that it's going to, what we need is a replay of West Ham, sunny day, basically the summer, loads of optimism, absolutely nothing to lose. That day because it was the first day of the season, so nothing's decided yet. This time because we're going for an achievement, but there's no penalty for failure, there's no relegation, there's no loss of promotion or anything like that. So we should turn it into like a carnival atmosphere, really. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't bring the intensity of, roaring every tackle and, giving it both barrels to the opposition at times and all that kind of stuff, that, whipping up the crowd in moments of passion during the game. But let's celebrate what a brilliant season it's been, regardless of what happens on the pitch. Because if we create a positive mindset, I think that'll filter through to the players. Now, there's nothing wrong with when everything's on the line and you just need the results. The fans can bring, like I said, the intensity and almost the grit and the steel that's needed. And that's great. But I think on a day like this, that we don't need that. We don't need that sort of backs against the wall, siege mentality, everyone's against us thing. This should be a celebration of this club and this team and what we've all achieved together this season. Fans, players, staff, everybody. And like I say, hopefully that'll then filter through and relax the players in a positive way, sort of let them just play their game and express themselves. Because I honestly believe that if we play it anywhere near what we're capable of, it doesn't matter what Chelsea do, we should win. The form that we've been in recently, I don't think it's insane to suggest that that's well within our capabilities. So yeah, let's back the lads, turn up in numbers. I mean, I'll be there several hours in advance because there's no bloody trains. So National Express coach for me, get in. But yeah, I think, everyone will be out in good time and, like you say, lying in the street and in the ground nice and early and everything like that. So yeah, let's make it a proper day to remember. And no matter what happens, give the lads a send-off because they've done us proud this year.
Yeah. Make sure you've got the Divine Comedy on loop on your buds on the coach on the way there. But yeah, Andrew, let's get into some team news because there was some news that came out of the manager on that. Alderete sounds like it's going to be a late decision, but then he did talk about Talby, and I don't know whether it was just a slight, slip of the tongue or whatever, because he said Talby is out as well. And I don't know if that meant he kind of accidentally confirmed Alderete was out or not. But let's assume both of them are out because the Alderete one didn't sound too positive, to be honest. It said it was going to be a really late decision. But Talby, he confirmed, was out because he's picked up a knock. So how do you think he's going to shape things up? Because Luke O'Nien came on for him, of course, early doors at Everton. Do you think that's a straight swap?
I think it would be, yeah. When you look at how well the back four performed once O'Nien came in, it would be unnecessarily risky to start implementing new players or new formations or anything like that. O'Nien can drop in. We know he can defend. We know he's comfortable bringing the ball out. So by him retaining that spot, it means there's not so many other changes. I hadn't really picked up on that, the wording of the Talby thing. That's interesting, that, Chris, because I think I was just surprised about Talby himself. It's a bit of a blow, Talby, because he did very well coming on off the bench last weekend. I like him. There's something there with him. So him not being available is a shame, but it's a real shock as well. Because, yeah, there's been no whispers about that whatsoever. So I hadn't even considered, has he give the game away with Alderete as well? I took his earlier comments about Alderete at face value. We always go back to the same things, how he doesn't make changes for the sake of it. So hopefully Alderete is available, but if not, O'Nien is a damn good replacement. We've had a week on the training ground, so people should be feeling fresh. I don't think we're going to be leggy or fatigued, and it'll be as close as possible in terms of personnel and formation as it was against Everton and Man United, I assume.
Yeah. I mean, Jonny Talby wasn't in the starting lineup against Everton. He replaced Trey Hume. And of course, there's been a little bit of debate recently about the role of the Real Madrid target, Trey Hume, on that right side of midfield. But you'd be surprised, other than the force changed at the back, if he changed anything in midfield and up top, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm just sort of thinking about that myself now because I really would change it. Not to rehash the whole debate again, I don't like Hume in that position. I think it sets him up for a bit of failure. The only thing I will say on that is, I think you're right that Reggie will keep it the same, partly because, okay, we're at home and it's, we need to go out and be positive and try and win the game, etc. But I think he loves what Hume brings to that right side of the pitch in a defensive sense, obviously, and just in a flexibility sort of sense. I was talking about it the other day, saying, when you look at the way that Hume played against Everton in particular, so much of that game he spent kind of rotating positions between him, Hetrauda and Mukele, when one would step out and the other would drop, and you had them kind of shifting around in a little triangle, which obviously it gives us great options when we're then going forward. I mean, you had Mukele stepping out into the opposition's final third from centre back, on multiple occasions, which we know he's good enough to do it, but he can only do it if you cover for him, and you can only cover for him if somebody's able to, and the dominoes fall back to Trey Hume. So I totally get why he goes for it, and I can see the logic behind it, but me personally, I would want to see somebody else in there, even if it's a Chris Rigg, not necessarily a flying winger, but somebody who's got a bit more about them going forward. But hey, Reggie's decisions are the decisions that have got us into this position to be able to maybe qualify for Europe in the first place. So whatever he goes with, I'm happy to trust it.
Yeah. Well, Diarra looked fantastic down that right-hand side and created quite a lot with Chris Rigg in the late stages of that game at Everton. Could Diarra be a shout, Jonny?
I think he could. Yeah, absolutely. I think he could. He can definitely do a lot of the same kind of things that Trey Hume does in that position, because obviously we know he's got the engine. We know that he'll happily go and press people and put tackles in, and he's not afraid of getting his sort of hands dirty, if you like. I just wonder whether maybe Labris has decided to take a slightly more hands-off approach with Diarra in the wake of, he has had tough times this season, and there's been some negative sentiment among the fan base at times, and I think a lot of that's been really unfair. And I don't think Diarra's deserved it, but possibly smart management from Labris to say, okay, well, I'll hold him back a little bit, and I'm still going to use him, and he's still a big part of my team, but let's put him in maybe situations where it's, not less pressure, but it's not quite the same as dropping him into an unfamiliar position from the start in a game that we really need to win. So I think for me, he would definitely be an option there. I think he's good enough and he's got the right kind of game to play that role. But yeah, I think Labris maybe is just being a little careful with him. And I think that's the right call, because certainly against Everton, like you say, I mean, he was great. Some of that movement down the right-hand side. And it's something Diarra's done all season. He's attacked that right-hand side channel really well. So I think that's something that we can use as a bit of a weapon going forward. But just for this weekend, I would imagine that he'll keep it the same. Or if he is going to change it, it won't be something that we haven't seen yet, like a Diarra out there. I think he'll stick with what he knows.
And you never know. Trey Hume might get his hat-trick and we might collect 80 million euros or whatever from Real Madrid in the summer.
By the way, again, like we skipped over that ridiculously quickly. We have reports that Real Madrid want our players. What is happening? What is happening? A few years ago, we couldn't give them away, literally. It's ridiculous.
Well, this, as well, is a player who some fans are thinking we're not getting the most out of. It's crazy. Just on the Hume issue there, because it is a big talking point, and I fully get where you're coming from, Jonny. I just think that what you would gain by putting somebody like Rigg in instead of Hume, you would lose in other areas. I don't think the net benefit would be there. And that's not a criticism of any individuals. They all contribute something to the game and to the plan. I think all the Briss is bothered about is the full-time result. And if that means Hume plays 70 minutes for argument's sake, sets a foundation, and then Rig comes on or Diarra comes on, I think that's all he's bothered about. And interesting, I thought that against Everton for the first time in a while, I know he was forced into one of them. It was the first time he made 5 subs, I think, in a while. So again, he doesn't see it as you're not good enough to start or you're not good enough to do this. It's one big calculation. And if it whatever that formula is, as long as it gets the answer he wants, he'll go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a totally fair point. And I think the other side of it as well is who plays on the opposite wing. You know, we all kind of skimmed over it a bit there, but obviously it was Nilsson Angulo, wasn't it, against Everton? He's very much an attacking option. Now, again, clearly he'll graft and he puts some work in, but he's not as good defensively as Enzo Lefebvre on the left or Talby on the left or whoever. So it possibly is a little bit of not so much compensation for it, but trying to add a little bit of sort of balancing the team by imbalancing the team, if you know what I mean. So you've got a certain type of player on one side, certain type of player on the other. You can shuffle things across. So totally fair point. Like, and as I say, whatever he picks, I trust him.
Oh, I know you weren't saying otherwise, mate. I was just trying to get into his headspace because on paper, Hume there doesn't look quite right. But hey, they can do what they want as long as it gets us where we want to be.
Yep, it's all part of the master plan with his starters and his finishers. But gents, for the last time this season, it's prediction time. I'm going to start with you, Andrew. How do you feel the game going?
Oh, I'm ultra positive. This isn't a David versus Goliath. I know Chelsea are a good team, but they're only 1 point ahead of us at the moment. I don't think at any point this season Sunderland have lost more games in the league than they've won. So we've always been strong. We've always competed at this level. We don't need to be fearful of Chelsea. I do think we'll see a similar pattern to the Everton game in that it's a bit cagey, it's a bit cat and mouse, and then from an hour onwards, we maybe look to ramp it up a bit. And if we get that first goal, I honestly think it's game over. I think if we can get ahead, get the momentum, I don't think anybody could stop us in front of a full Stadium of Light crowd at the moment.
Yeah. Well, actually, just to build off what you said there, I think potentially they're a better set of players and we're a better team. That's the way I would maybe look at the two. And just some quick stats there. I was looking and, it's bizarre actually to think, after that 5-0 defeat of Forest, but only the top two and Brighton have conceded fewer goals at home than Sunderland this season. And on the other hand, Chelsea, I think only Arsenal and City have taken more points on the road, and only City have scored more goals away from home this season. Just to put those out there before Jonny gives us his prediction.
Well, I'm going to totally ignore everything you've just said, and
I can see it on your face. You were like, I don't care.
No, I'm going full superstition with this one. Do you know what? If I just don't say what my prediction is, does the pod never end and we don't have to end the season? Is that no? I'm going to go full superstition. Like I said before, I think the atmosphere needs to be an exact mirror of the West Ham game. So I think the score's going to be exactly the same. I think we're going to win 3-0. And could be just delusion because I'm really excited about it. But honestly, I'm really confident. I think Andrew's spot on that if we get the first goal, it could end up being quite comfortable for us. And I think because we've started quickly in a few home games this season, not all the time, but, certainly Villa and Man United, you can think of 2 first half performances there that were really positive. If we put something like that out with a packed crowd, a lovely, sunny, warm day, everyone's had a few drinks, everyone's excited, I think we could get a bit of a head of steam going. I think we could really get the ball rolling, and I think we'll win 3-0. But I'm far too scared to predict the other results like Brentford and Brighton. So I don't want to start dipping my toes there. So let's just do our job, win the game, and whatever happens, happens.
Well, that's it. I just think it's going to be a party either way, whatever happens, because it's been a fantastic season. But I think we deserve to go out with a bang this season. It's going to be a fantastic weekend with the sun coming down, and I'm sure the beers will be flowing, and Andrew will be recovering off BBC Radio 1's big weekend on the Saturday, watching all of Pop's biggest acts, who I haven't got a clue who they are.
You know me, Chris. You know, I'm one of those 24-hour party people. I'm just going straight from Harrington Country Park to the stadium, you know?
Yeah, that's
Not
it.
even bothering going to bed.
Yeah, people will recognise Andrew in the stands at the Stadium of Light because he won't have washed the fluorescent, glow of the paint that he's got all over his face and everything, and his radioactive bangles that he'll be wearing still, I'm sure, on Sunday. But yeah, just leave you to say thank you very much, gents, for the season as a whole. It's been fantastic to cover pretty much all the games with you. So thank you very much for your time. And of course, I'm saying this, but we'll be speaking next week probably, because we're, of course, doing pods every day during the summer. And thanks again, everyone, for listening. Don't forget, we'll have our last podcast of the season going out very soon after the final whistle. Not sure what state Gav and the other lads will be in, so that should be a fun listen. And again, thank you to everyone who's listened to us this season. And let's see if we're preparing for a European adventure next season. So look out for all of that. But from us, it's bye for now.
Hi, this is Ben Green from The Athletic FC. The podcast you're about to listen to is brought to you by Hotels.com. As a Hotels.com member, you save up to 20% on hundreds of thousands of hotels and earn rewards on every single stay, which means the trips you're taking now help pay for the ones you're already dreaming about. And unlike some other places, there are no blackout dates, so when you want to travel, your rewards are ready to go. So the next time you're planning a work trip or a getaway, make sure to book it at Hotels.com and start earning rewards. Hotels.com. It's all in the name.